is actually a workplace drama. And we're a show about, among many other things, the workplace. So as you sat down to actually, you probably didn't sit down and come up with this thing out of whole cloth. What was the process by which you came to the nut graph, the idea for this show?
There were a bunch of contributing features. When I left the West Wing, I was like, well, I want to do this, but with the whole world. And then when I was working on Homeland, this ambassador came in to speak to us. We interviewed a lot of experts from a lot of different fields, and she came in to talk about the work that she had done in Pakistan. And 2 minutes into the conversation, I still have it in my notepad, I wrote, "She is a series." The stories that she told as I talked to more people in that field were not all that unusual. And I thought, how the is it that nobody knows about what these people do?
Can we talk about Keri Russell for a minute?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Did
I
you
like
write?
her.
Did you huge? So look, I said this before we started rolling tape. I'm a huge fan of this show. I really enjoy it. Keri's great, and Rufus Sewell and David Gassi and the whole cast. And I want to get to the chemistry of it in a second. But did you write this with Keri in mind?
No,
oh, interesting.
I did not.
Interesting.
And then someone suggested Keri when we were beginning to talk about casting. And I said, she's an amazing actress. I love her work, but she is so powerful and statuesque. She is Elizabeth on The Americans, so in control. I'm writing a sort of an itchy, twitchy, neurotic.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it. And the executive that I was working with said, just have a conversation, see how it goes. We get on Zoom. Within 30 seconds, I was like, oh my God, she is Kate. She's so down to earth and relaxed in her own body and laughing at herself in every second and relatable. And I was like, oh God, she's Kate.
And then as you got to casting the rest of this team, one of the reasons this show works for me anyway, and I think probably for a lot of people and probably for a lot of shows actually, is that the chemistry between the actors and the characters is so good. How do you do that? Is it just serendipitous casting? Should I be interviewing the casting director instead of you?
Probably. Julie Schubert, unbelievable casting director. Some of it is just luck. Keri and Rufus liked each other right off, and the thing that we were casting for was team players, honestly. I'm very much cognizant of the fact that whatever happens on the show, it should be a pleasant place to work for everybody. And so if we're talking about workplaces, certain ecosystems evolve that are built around a single CEO or creator or lead, where there's a lot of dysfunction that revolves around supporting that one person's process. And I think the work that you get out of a group is a lot better if everybody realizes that everybody there is a human being with creativity to contribute and a family at home, and that we're lucky to do this. That energy, I think, creates a certain lightness and playfulness and ease in the interaction of the whole cast.
I was in the Navy. I was in flight school actually when Top Gun came out, and of course the whole vibe when Top Gun comes out is, oh, naval aviation, it's the coolest thing ever. I was in the Foreign Service, as you may or may not be aware, many years ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was overseas at the embassies in Ottawa and Beijing. Ottawa, lovely place, not very foreign. Beijing, obviously quite foreign.
And what was your role?
Oh, I was stamping visas and doing mundane stuff. I was a brand new junior officer. Nothing exciting. Nothing exciting.
It's exciting in the consular section. I know that.
The life was cool. What has the reaction been from the State Department for you?
They have been really happy. They were, I think, terrified when they first heard about us, as they should be. And we wanted to be as loyal as we could to the substance of the work that they do and the intention behind it. Somebody recently put it as not realistic, but authentic. And I think that's the right way to describe the goal. And, we've had people come up to us and say, wow, my family now, like my parents understand what I do now. And that's what we want.
The show is called The Diplomat. It's on Netflix. Deborah Kahn is the showrunner, the creator. You should check it out because it's great. Deborah, thank you so much for your time.
Great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Coming up.
As a freelancer, you bounce from city to city. You really don't have connection to the community that you're living in.
Now try doing that while you're singing at the Metropolitan Opera. First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's off 154 today, 0.4%, 42,233. The Nasdaq gained 145 points, about 0.8%. Finished at 18,712. The S&P 500 picked up 9 points, 0.2%. Ended things at 58.32. McDonald's dropped 0.6% the day after reporting mixed third quarter earnings. Those results do not include a drop in sales after the chain's recent E. coli outbreak. Boeing elevated 1.5% today, that after announcing a $21 billion sale of stock to raise capital and avoid a credit downgrade. Bitcoin, which I mentioned, up 3.5% today. I haven't checked this in a while. $72,000 for one Bitcoin. Oil was pretty much even on the day. West Texas Intermediate, $67.50 a barrel. Bond prices up. Yield on the 10-year T-notes down 4.26%. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform. Marketplace is supported by VantageScore, a leading inclusive and predictive credit score used by 8 out of 10 largest banks and over 3,400 bank and fintechs nationwide. VantageScore drives financial inclusion by leveraging innovation. Learn more at VantageScore.com. And by Rubrik. When cyber attacks put businesses at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast. More at Rubrik.com. And by the full-time Plus Flex MBA program at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business, the only 2-year MBA that lets you choose where you spend your second year. More at go.iu.edu/KelleyFlex.
Support for WNYC comes from the Central Park Conservancy. Central Park is a living work of art, and even lifelong New Yorkers don't know its biggest secret, that it is cared for by the Central Park Conservancy. Learn more at centralparknyc.org.
I'm Jacqueline Sincata, WNYC's Program Director. We are grateful for the outpouring of support received during our recent on-air fundraiser. Thank you so much. Your generosity inspires us. Did you know your employer may match your donation, which could double or triple your contribution? You can find out more at wnyc.org/match. Again, thank you very much for your support and for listening to WNYC.
You're listening to Marketplace on WNYC. In the 7 o'clock hour of All Things Considered, Vice President Harris plans to make her final argument of the election tonight from the same spot her opponent spoke on January 6th, 2021. We'll have that and more at 7 o'clock. Stay tuned.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Risdall. I'm paraphrasing here, but you know how on Apple products, phones, iPads, earbuds, what have you, somewhere on the thing, it used to say something like, designed in the United States, assembled in China? Well, that, but for solar panels. The technology that takes sunlight and turns it into electricity was invented here, yes, but the industry that makes solar panels nearly died out in this country thanks to Chinese competition. Solar making here is making a comeback, but it's no sure thing quite yet, as Marketplace's Sabri Benishore reports.
At a plant in Dalton, Georgia, ribbons of copper are being soldered onto slices of silicon crystal just twice the thickness of a human hair. Supervisor Robert Howie watches as these crystals are arranged in groups called strings.
This individual string will become part of a family of 12 strings that will make up the beginning part of our solar panel.
This plant, owned by South Korea-based Q-Cells, opened in 2019. Lisa Nash is the general manager.
We started out, we were going to be around 300 people, and now we're 2 buildings and 2,000 people. We make about 60,000 panels a day here in Dalton.
This plant exists because of trade policy.
It was the tariffs at the time that really drove that decision.
Tariffs. Marta Stopker is with Qcells, the firm that owns this plant. In 2018, the Trump administration slapped tariffs of up to 30% on solar equipment made in China.
We were like, instead of being tariffed to import our product, let's just make our product in the United States.
A few years later, the U.S. solar industry got another shot in the arm when President Joe Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act. The IRA showered clean energy manufacturing with tax credits and incentives. The very next year, Qcells announced it was investing $2.5 billion more into manufacturing in the U.S.
These investments, especially downstream on the supply chain, would not have been possible without the IRA, for sure.
More than a dozen plants have popped up with help from the IRA. U.S. production capacity for solar panels has quintupled in 2 years, according to S&P Global. But that's mostly assembling finished solar panels. Everything leading up to that, the parts, the hair-thin wafers of silicon crystal, the little square cells you see when you look at a solar panel, that is where the U.S. supply chain has gaping holes. Michelle Davis is head of solar research at data analytics firm Wood Mackenzie.
There have been a lot of cell manufacturing facilities and wafer manufacturing facilities that have either been canceled entirely or put on hold.
The reason, she says, is that global prices for these parts have crashed, and the investment math just doesn't make as much sense as it does for finished panels.
Those investments are being undermined largely by Chinese-owned and Chinese-controlled companies who are shipping here at dumped and subsidized prices and crushing the market.
Tim Brightville is lead counsel for the American Alliance for Solar Manufacturing Trade Committee, a group of solar manufacturers in the U.S. He says China has gotten around existing tariffs on it by exporting through other countries.
It's a whack-a-mole problem where we address China, we win a case, we achieve tariffs, and the Chinese-owned companies move to other countries like Vietnam, like Cambodia, and Thailand.
The manufacturers he represents say they need more tariffs targeting these new countries. The Department of Commerce agrees. This month, it announced tariffs of up to nearly 300%, and that is just the beginning. But these tariffs, like those before them, are paid by U.S. importers, and that has highlighted a rift in the American solar industry.
Prices have certainly increased as the tariffs have been put into place. So we're paying well over double what other regions outside the United States are paying for panels.
Scott Wyatter is CEO of Standard Solar, which builds and operates large solar energy farms for businesses and governments.
So at the end of the day, it's really the end customer that's getting penalized the most.
Wyatter says there just isn't enough production of solar panel components in the U.S. to meet demand, and there won't be for years. The result is different parts of the U.S. solar industry have been competing for different trade policies. One group asks for more protections, another for exceptions. And the rebirth of American solar manufacturing sits at a precarious moment. In New York, I'm Sabri Ben-Achour for Marketplace.
We got new JOLTS data this morning. Say it with me now. The Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. To quote the BLS, things were little changed in September from a month earlier. But even if the big picture is pretty stable, people are still making career moves all the time, whether that's finding a new job or maybe just finding a new direction. That gets us to today's installment of our series, My Economy.
I'm Carrie Ann Otanio, former opera singer, eternal opera hype girl, and current vice president of Opera Delaware in Wilmington, Delaware. I knew that I liked singing and performing, but opera was nowhere on my radar when I was a kid. I was 14 when I met this little 77-year-old former opera singer who said, I hear something in you. I think you should learn about opera. And she kind of took me under her wing, and it changed my perspective on everything. Opera just wasn't something that I even knew that people like me could do. But to the credit of this woman that I met, she brought me to the Met. She brought me to see a production of Carmen, and it was this buxom, big-haired, beautiful brown woman who was singing Carmen. And really, it was the exposure. It was seeing things like that, seeing myself and seeing the potential spaces that I could occupy that opened up opera for me. I was singing at the Metropolitan Opera, which was like the epitome of the dream of my life. It was where I wanted to be since I was 14. But that came at the end of a long road of a lot of big and amazing gigs where I was really isolated. As a freelancer, you bounce from city to city. You really don't have connection to the community that you're living in. And you're performing at a really, really high level. If you can't sing the high C that you need to sing that night, if you have to call out, you don't get paid. That led to a really dark period where I couldn't sing without crying. It spiraled and got worse and worse progressively. And I was supposed to be starting a new gig singing out in California. And I said to them, I can't sing without crying. I don't know what's going on. Something's broken in me. I thought I'm going to have to give up on this thing that has been so important to me and given me my life for the last 15 years. And fortunately for me, the general director of the company at the time asked, if you leave here, do you have health insurance? And I said, no. And he said, well, then we're not going to have you leave in a crisis. This is unheard of in opera. I didn't know that we could take care of each other like this. And when I tell you, that changed everything in my life, because I realized the power that we all have to change the things that we don't agree with. That is what led me to move into administration for a career. And my goal here is to build a sustainable life for artists. Do I get FOMO from not being on stage performing anymore? I think a lot of people, when they think about moving into administration or moving into producing, they worry that they're going to still have that itch and they're going to miss that. For me, I really feel like this is my purpose. I will say, though, now when I sing, it comes from a place of incredible joy. Like when I was a kid, that I sing with joy, I sing to build community, I sing to connect with people. And it's a different feeling, for sure.
Carrie Ann Otonio, once an opera singer, now the VP of Engagement at Opera Delaware. Whether you found your passion early or you're making a late pivot, tell us about it, would you? Marketplace.org/myeconomy.
Marketplace is supported by Babbel for Business. Babbel's professional language learning platform offers practical and industry-specific language courses designed for today's workforce. BabbelForBusiness.com. And by Bitwarden, with a reminder that investing end-of-year IT budgets into an enterprise password manager can be smart spending for effective workplace security. Bitwarden.com. And by the John Templeton Foundation, funding interdisciplinary research and catalyzing conversations to inspire awe and wonder. Learn more at templeton.org.
This final note on the way out today. You remember like a year and a half ago when then Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz rolled out those new olive oil drinks? Oleato, they were called? Well, two things. Number one, I tried one once, exactly as gross as you would imagine. And number two, it seems new Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol agrees. The company said today Oleatos are soon to be no more. I mean, sure, they couched it in a whole, we're simplifying the menu and getting back to coffee basics so we can be more profitable thing, but honestly, just so gross. Oh, man. Our digital and on-demand team includes Carrie Barber, Jordan Manji, Dylan Miettinen, Janet Wynn, Olga Oxman, Ellen Rolfes, Virginia K. Smith, and Tony Wagner. Francesca Levy is the Executive Director of Digital and On Demand. And I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
WNYC is supported by